Hey guys, it's Gina, and it is the end of September, so that means that it is time for a September wrap-up. I have 11 books to talk about, so we're just gonna jump right on into it. First, I want to talk about the only physical book that I read this month, and that was Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. This was a reread for me, and I reread it because it is the 10-year anniversary for Twilight, and what better excuse than to reread it. I did keep this at a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, but pretty much only for nostalgia. So that is my only physical book that I read this month. It happened. The other 10 books I listened to on my phone. While I did listen to all of these on audiobook, I do own a few of them, so don't get confused when I'm showing you a physical book. I did listen to it on audio. So the first book that I listened to this month was Cress by Marissa Meyer. This is the third book in the Lunar Chronicles series, and it was fantastic. I liked it a whole lot more than Scarlet. Basically in this one you follow Cress, and who is pretty much Rapunzel. It's Rapunzel's retelling. So basically with this one, Cress just kind of joins the group in their fight, and that's really all I'm gonna say about it because it's kind of spoilery for the rest of the series. However, I did like this a whole lot more than I liked Scarlet. I really love Cress, and I really like, what's his name? And I really love Captain Thorn. He's probably my favorite character so far in the series. Scarlet, I didn't really care for. I didn't care for her character, and while I was reading Scarlet, I just wanted more of Cinder. That didn't happen with this one, and I'm so excited for Winter to come out in a couple of months. I cannot wait, and hopefully I like it just as much as I liked this one. And I did end up giving this a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I listened to was Mary Poppins. I didn't like it. I didn't like it nearly as much as I thought that I would. I loved the movie, and obviously with the movie they changed some stuff, but with the book, Mary Poppins is just very mean and rude and not relatable at all. I didn't like her, and there were just parts of that book that were just like, what is happening? What is going on? I didn't even know half the time. It was a strange book. That's for sure. Very strange book. And I gave this a 2.53-ish out of 5 stars. The next book that I read, I enjoyed so much that I ended up buying a copy. Spoiler alert for my September book haul. Eleanor Park by Rainbow Rowell. I loved this book. It's so fantastic and so much more of what I was expecting from it. So there are definitely some deep elements in this book, and there's definitely a trigger warning for domestic abuse and depression, and if those things bother you and that you can't really read them, this is not a book that I would suggest for you. I did not know that going into this. It doesn't bother me, but I kind of wish I would have known. Any kind of review I ever see, or any time I see anyone talking about this book, it's just that it's such a cute book and it's such a good book, and it's a really good book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars and ended up buying it, but I kind of wish I would have been prepared a little bit, knowing that it had a deeper element to it. I loved the deeper element to it, and I'm not going to get into it too much because it might be a little spoilery, but I just really loved that aspect, and it was so well written and so well done that it made you feel for the characters so much more than just your typical YA contemporary does. If you are okay with sensitive subjects and kind of more dark subjects, I definitely would recommend this. The next book that I read was Matilda, and I absolutely loved it. It was so cute and just like the movie. It was just fantastic. Matilda is coming to the Fox this year, and I am going to go see it, so I wanted to read the book to kind of get a refresher and not just watch the movie before I go see the play, and I loved it so much. It was pretty much exactly like the movie, so if you like the movie, you will like the book. I did give Matilda a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I listened to this month was George by Alex Gino. This book was fantastic. It is a middle grade LGBT book that follows George, a transgender girl who knows that she is transgender, and she knows that she is a girl, but no one else does, and she's kind of afraid to tell people. And the thing that she wants most at this point of time in her life is to play Charlotte in Charlotte's Web at her school, and because she is physically a boy, she runs into some challenges, and it was just such a cute and fantastic story that I definitely recommend to anyone looking for a quick, easy, middle grade read, or even if you're looking for an LGBT read. It was so good. I did end up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I listened to was another reread, and that was Inkheart. This is the second time that I have read Inkheart. The first time I read it was like way back when it first came out. I have not read the other 2 books in the trilogy, and I really want to, so that is why I reread it, to kind of refresh my mind on what happens, and I enjoyed it just as much as I did the first time. I had a few slight issues with the narrator of the audiobook, but other than that, it was just so fantastic and just great. And basically Inkheart is a story about a story. These characters in this story have books, and they bring the characters in these books to life and bring them out of their books, but they're the bad guys, and so they're trying to get them back into the book, and it's just a fun adventure, and I cannot wait to pick up books 2 and 3 in the trilogy. I did give Inkheart a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read this month was Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I loved this book. Not as much as I loved Eleanor Park, but pretty dang close. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. It was fantastic, very relatable. The only thing that I didn't like is pretty much what everyone doesn't like about it, and that is the fan fiction of the books that she is writing. The fan fiction are very, very, very similar to Harry Potter. Like, it's too close for comfort, and it bothers me. I didn't mind Kath's fan fiction, like when she was reading it to Levi, but I didn't care for all of the inserts, like the fan fiction inserts or the actual book inserts. I didn't really care for that, and had I been physically reading it, honestly, I probably would have skipped over it. But I was listening to it on audiobook, so I had to listen to them. But when Kath was reading to Levi, those stories I didn't mind so much, but that was like my main issue with Fangirl. Other than that, I really enjoyed it, and just like with Eleanor Park, it's not just your YA contemporary romance novels. There's some deeper, darker subject matters. It's just, there were some parts that were a little harder to read, not so much as with Eleanor Park, but there are definitely some deeper aspects that I enjoyed. I kind of wish that Rainbow would have went into the deeper aspects a little bit more, just to kind of give you more of that background. Like I said, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and it was fantastic. The next book that I listened to is something that I've been putting off for years, and that is Sundays at Tiffanys by James Patterson. I loved this book. It was so cute, but kind of creepy in like a weird, creepy, what kind of way. I didn't really know what to expect going into this one. I've had this book for a while, and honestly, I don't think I ever read the description. I went through a huge James Patterson phase a few years back, and I was basically just buying all of his standalones. This is one that I never got around to picking up because it wasn't a thriller standalone. It is a contemporary standalone, and it was really great. It is about this girl who, when she is little, has this imaginary friend, and come to find out all kids have imaginary friends, and the imaginary friends are all older, like in their 30s, and once the kid hits 9 years old, the imaginary friend disappears, and the kid is supposed to forget about them. However, what's her name? Jane. However, Jane does not forget her imaginary friend Michael. Instead, she ends up writing a play about him, and the play gets huge, and so many 20 some odd years down the road, when Jane is in her 30s, Michael finds himself back in New York waiting for his next assignment, his next child that he is going to go to, when he sees adult Jane. He decides to start following her to see, just to see how she grew up, because she was his favorite child that he had ever watched, and he didn't forget her, even though she was supposed to forget him. He thought that she had forgotten him, because that is what is supposed to happen. But she didn't. Eventually, she does notice him and recognize him and goes straight to them, and the story pretty much picks up from there. It goes on to them actually having a relationship, which is the creepy part that I was talking about, because, I mean, come on now. This is this 30-year-old guy that was her imaginary friend when she was 8, and now they have a romantic relationship. That part was kind of creepy, but other than that, I really enjoyed it. It was really cute. It's fairly short. I read this, or rather listened to it, in not even a whole day at work, like half a day at work, and I really liked it. And I did give it a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I listened to, I also gave 5 out of 5 stars, and that is Forgive Me Learned Peacock by Matthew Quick. This book was so fantastic, and I should not have listened to it at work. I didn't really know what this book was about going into it. I kind of wish I had remembered what it was about. I have seen people talking about it, so I know it. I kind of knew what it was about at some point, but it was available, so I downloaded it. And like I said, I really wish that I would have been listening to this at home. Luckily, my desk doesn't face anybody, so I was able to kind of keep my emotions to myself, and I did get teary-eyed a little bit. So just like with Eleanor Park, there is a trigger warning for Forgive Me, Leonard Peacock. Forgive Me, Leonard Peacock follows the story of a boy through a 24-hour time period of the day that he plans to commit suicide. It was a very emotional and heart-wrenching book, and if suicide is a topic that doesn't really sit well with you, you can't really read it, then this is not a book for you. I would not recommend this at all. But if it is something that is interesting, or that you would like to read about, or would like to read a story about, Forgive Me, Leonard Peacock was fantastic, and I recommend it to anyone that is okay with reading subject matter like this. For me, I have a degree in psychology, and I find this stuff very interesting, and I really liked the book. Not only was it interesting and intriguing, it really gives you insight and feelings almost, and really kind of shows you and teaches you to not make judgments on other people and to be kind to people. Like, you don't know what somebody might be going through. It was such a great book. Definitely don't recommend reading this in public like I did. It wasn't good, but this book is so grabbing and just, it's so intense and gets you into it that I did not want to stop listening to it. So much, in fact, that I kept listening to it on my break. That is how intense this book was, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I do plan on buying it soon. But again, this is not a book that I would recommend to everybody because it was very intense and very, very emotional, but it was really well written. And the last book that I read this month, which I just read today, was the Demigod Files by Rick Riordan, which is a Percy Jackson companion book, I think. Basically what it is it's just 3 short stories in the Percy Jackson world, and then a couple other little fun things in the book as well. I really enjoyed it. I kind of wish that I would have read it in the series, like where you're supposed to read it. Like, I think you're supposed to read it before the last book, maybe. I think that might have been a little bit better, but it was really good, and I really enjoyed being back in the Percy Jackson world, and I did give it a 4 out of 5 stars. And that is all the books that I read in the month of September. Like I said, it was a very audio heavy month for me, but I really wasn't in a reading mood. I wouldn't necessarily say I've been slumpy. I just haven't felt like reading much, and that's also why I haven't been posting as many videos as normal, because I just haven't felt like it. I can tell that October is going to be different. I'm hoping to physically read more in October, as well as making more videos in October. It will happen. It will happen. But that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of the books that I mentioned and what your thoughts are on them. And also let me know what your favorite book of the month was. For me, it had to be Eleanor Park and Forgive Me, Leonard Peacock. Both of those books just pull at the heart and are very emotional, and they stick with you. I'm still thinking of both of them weeks after reading them. They were just so fantastic, but definitely not for everybody. So again, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. There's a train. There's always a train. Where she enters with Cinder and Scarlet and everybody else, and my cat is hitting my tripod. Stop it! And so much more than what I was expecting for a I didn't mind Eleanor, now I'm getting the books mixed up.